guys can roll whenever you're ready.
All right. Mr. Vice President, I want to ask you first about foreign policy. There really hasn't been a lot of discussion of foreign policy in this campaign, other than you've brought it up a lot, and when you look around the world, there seem to be a lot of issues. Is it because voters don't care about foreign policy, or candidates don't care about foreign policy?
I know the voters care about it because they don't, it's not like I have a particular foreign policy beef on this or that, but they know our place in the world has been diminished. They know that autocrats are having their way, and they know that our alliances are frayed. I mean, they're uneasy about it. And I think it's, if you look at it, there's not a lot of discussion by the other candidates of foreign policy. I think it's one of the two most critical things the next president has to deal with. And because on day one, they better know exactly what the devil they think. They better know how, they better be able to stand before the whole world, and the world know who they are, what they think, and they know those other leaders, the good ones and the bad ones. And but there's not a lot of foreign policy expertise in the, I mean, not a lot of the people running have engaged in foreign policy. Doesn't mean they're not qualified people, it just means they haven't engaged in it much.
You've talked a lot about your engagement, and you know these leaders, and you know the issues. Many of these issues didn't start just 3 years ago.
Oh, no.
They've been ongoing forever. You've been there in the discussions at the table, and yet we're still fighting the same battles, we're the same war, the same issues again and again.
Well, okay.
Why should you be the guy who's at the table again?
Well, because I was strenuously opposed to Reagan's foreign policy and Bush's foreign policy, particularly W. We began to rectify a lot of it. I was the guy asked to bring home 156,000 combat troops from Iraq. I was able to, I was one of the guys who was able to see to it that Milosevic was taken down in the Balkans. I've been deeply engaged in making sure we passed the Chemical Weapons Treaty, the New START Treaty, etc. So we made a fair amount of progress until this guy came along. This guy, I shouldn't say it that way, the President Trump came along, and he has just embraced thugs and autocrats and damaged our reputation around the world, which matters, not in terms of reputation, but in terms of our physical security. If he's elected the next for another 4 years, I believe you'll see the end of NATO, which is a critical alliance. We are seeing what's happening in the Far East, in Asia, where we find ourselves with the Chinese gaining traction and us basically doing nothing to deal with it. With Japan and South Korea at each other. So there's even in this hemisphere, there's really no plan this president has to deal with what should be an ability to organize this hemisphere in a way that it is democratic, free, and middle class. But he's walked away.
You talked today about your ability to work with Mitch McConnell and your ability to work with Republicans.
Not all the time.
Not all the time. And part of the narrative of your campaign has been that there are people, Republicans and Republican-leaning independents, who would vote for you, support you. Is that a pipe dream? I mean, when you consider that 92% of Republicans voted for Donald Trump, the same percentage as voted for Mitt Romney, is it sort of, I mean, does it make sense?
That 8% makes a big difference. Look, when Barack and I ran, we won those states that we lost in 16. We won Pennsylvania, we won Ohio, we won Minnesota, we won, etc. And we're talking about a relatively small number of people that we have to bring back into the fold. And when we lost in in ex-burbs as well as rural areas, we lost in the 48-52 margin or 45-55, not 85-15. And so it makes a gigantic difference, the margins by which you win or lose as well. And I have always gotten significant support from support from Republicans on the margins, as well as a lot of independent support. And the polls show that as well today. But that's not the basis upon which I should be the nominee. I think the basis on which I should be the nominee, from my perspective, is that I am the person that Trump is most worried about running against. He's spending millions of dollars now doing negative ads, and so I think I can win Pennsylvania flat out. I think I can win Minnesota. I think I can win Wisconsin. I think I can win Ohio. It shows me beating him in Texas, North Carolina, etc. So I can be competitive in places where I think not all Democrats can be competitive.
One other question that I wanted to ask about, in talking to people beforehand, before you spoke, a lot of people brought up health care. And some people had concerns that your plan doesn't go far enough. Others said that Medicare for All goes too far, too fast. Why is your approach better for individuals and better for the nation than a Medicare for All plan?
Because it can happen immediately. What we do is we take Obamacare and add the public option and Medicare option to Obamacare. We subsidize it even more than it was before, so no one's going to have to pay insurance copay more than $1,000. And if you can't afford the insurance, you get Medicare for free, a Medicare-like plan under my plan. And it costs a lot of money. It costs about $750 billion over 10 years, but doesn't cost $30 trillion, and allows people to have a choice. I think that people should be able to decide whether they want to keep their employer-based insurance, assuming the employer keeps it, or not. If they want to keep it, they should be able to keep it. 160 million people like what they have. And if an employer eliminates it, they can automatically buy into my option, and it can happen immediately. If you notice, all the other plans say it's going to take 4 to 10 years for them to get in place. Well, that old bad joke for the famous economists in the long run will all be dead. People need hope, they need security, they need certainty now, and I think we can get it done.
Is it a matter of sticker shock when you put it in those terms, $75 billion, $750 billion versus $32 trillion, that's going to scare voters?
Well, not only scare, it's not practical. That's more money per year than the entire federal budget. Every single solitary thing we spend. Everything. You can eliminate the entire Pentagon. You can eliminate all infrastructure. You eliminate the State Department. Eliminate it all. And it doesn't add up to $3 to $3.5 trillion a year to find for Medicare for all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
You bet.
But it's a staggering number.
It is.
No, I mean, when you think about it, people say, well, why was it before? Well, how in God's name do you pay for it without 16% of the people in America on Medicare now, and everybody has something taken out of their pay to pay for it now. You're going to add another 84% over 260 million people, 280 million people at one time, and everybody's taxes aren't going to have to go up to skyrocket in order to pay for it? So middle class people are going to be worse off than they were paying for their insurance now, in my view.
Okay.
And most experts will tell you that. Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.